I'm Jeff Owen, I'm a retired Chief Operating Officer of the American Bankers Association, having worked in Washington, D.C. for over 40 years. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is J.C. Polanco, and I'm an attorney in New York. I'm very happy to be here today and can't wait to hear your presentation. And by the way, I'm from the Bronx, so really excited to be here.
Hi, I'm Ellen Iwamoto. I'm the Director of Civics Programs at the Annenberg Public Policy Center at the University of Pennsylvania. Congratulations on being in the National Invitational. I know you've worked hard and your teachers as well, so excited to hear what you've learned.
Could you take a minute and introduce yourselves and your teacher, please?
Good morning, judges. I'm Kylie Ravenel.
I'm Maddie Catron.
I'm Annie Akis.
And we are from Faith Lutheran Middle School. Our teacher is Mrs. Carroll, and we are performing Unit 6. We would like to thank you for taking time out of your day to be here. We are ready to begin our speech.
Great, thank you. Well, first I'd like to read the question. Unit 6, what are the responsibilities of citizens? According to the American Immigration Council, immigration law in the United States has been built upon the following principles: the reunification of families, admitting immigrants with skills that are valuable to the U.S. economy, protecting refugees, and promoting diversity. Does today's immigration policy reflect these principles? Why or why not? What are the major cultural and political issues regarding immigration that face America today? What changes, if any, should be made to our current immigration policy? And should the United States admit more refugees in view of the worldwide crisis of displaced persons? Why or why not? You may begin.
Oscar Hamlin once said, "Once I thought of writing a history of immigration in America, then I discovered that the immigrants were American history." So much of the U.S. is made up of immigrants, yet some refuse to acknowledge the humanity that needs help. Many of the current immigration policies do not reflect on the principles of the U.S. and need to be specified. Department of Homeland Security versus Thrasingham is a perfect case to show that our policies are blurry. To help prevent this in the future, we can make the policies clearer, understandable, and less negotiable.
Another example of our immigration policies not properly reflecting the principles is the concept of reunifying families. Unaccompanied minors are going over the southern border in attempts to be able to bring the rest of their family over once they are in. With this information, I believe that we should change something in the immigration policies to help decrease the numbers of these unaccompanied minors.
This ties into the issues of immigration. The conditions of the detention centers are harmful to a child's physical and mental health. These minors are being held in poor condition detention centers, which are not suitable for long periods of stay. They have minimal food and few bathrooms on site. The residents of these centers may not go outside for days, which could cause lack of vitamin D and serotonin. Furthermore, the minors of these centers are not taking the precautions of COVID-19. It has been recorded that over 15,000 untested children have lived in these centers, which prevents them from social distancing. In my opinion, this deprives the minors from their right to life, liberty, and property. However, the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to them.
George Washington quotes, "America is open to receive not only the opulent and respectable stranger, but the oppressed and persecuted of all nations and religions, whom we shall welcome to a participation of all of our rights and privileges." Another issue with immigration is the fear of change in America. We can solve these feelings by proving the beneficial effects of immigrants to our economy.
While our immigration policy is constantly evolving, we believe that some adjustments should be made. One example would be to encourage the government to protect Americans from threats. Biden and the Department of Homeland Security issued interim guidance and are demanding ICE agents focus on arresting undocumented immigrants who pose a national security threat. The Constitution states in Article 4, Section 4, that America should protect each of us against invasion. They promise to us that as citizens, we will be safe. However, not all immigrants are threats. In Hernandez versus Mesa, a 15-year-old was shot for merely stepping on American soil. In cases such as these, agents need to examine the situation and ensure that only the dangerous are kept away with extensive criminal record checks.
We also believe that the criteria for immigration and asylum is sometimes unfair and differs with people. Currently, immigrants are judged upon a persecution and the grounds of which they are being persecuted. And while some might try to come in without good reason, many have great fears that will only decline if they have to return to a dangerous country. Coming to a country where the first words of the government foundation promise that America will secure the blessings of liberty sends out a beacon of hope to those who are wary of their own government. INS versus Elias Zacharias demonstrates how immigrants can sometimes be turned away to a dangerous life where they are facing persecution for a particular social group.
Yet the United States has supported and upheld the values of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness since the beginning of its creation and the Declaration of Independence, but other countries may not share the same ideologies. Rescue.org states that in 2019, an average of 24,000 people had to flee their homes everywhere each day. These people do not only want a better life, but a chance to live without fear of persecution or potentially death. Engraved on the Statue of Liberty is a poem which reads, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. Send these, the homeless tempest tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door." A staple piece of liberty in America has these words written on it, encapsulating the ideals of a welcoming nation.
Rebuilding refugee resettlement is both morally and strategically necessary. It allows the U.S. to lead by example, increasing the likelihood that other affluent countries will also take in refugees. Today, over half of all billion-dollar tech startup companies have immigrant founders, which employ over 500,000 Americans. These statistics provide for a reason as to why immigrants are helpful and not coming to plunder America. We are now ready for questions.
Great, thank you very much. I'd like to start by asking you about an issue that's been with us for the last half a dozen years, and that's the construction of a wall along the border with Mexico. How do you feel about the prospect of a wall? Is it something we should do, something we shouldn't do? Why or why not?
I think a wall is unnecessary because as Alejandro Mayorkas once said, securing our borders does not require us to ignore the humanity that seeks to come beyond them. So a wall would only encourage immigrants to try and come around a different way. It wouldn't really do anything to keep them out anymore. Unless the wall was like indestructible and had no holes whatsoever. So I believe that a wall would be unnecessary and it wouldn't do any good for the immigrants or for us.
Another view with that is some people may think that immigrants are criminals. For example, the court case of Barton versus Barr. So they might feel as though we need a wall, but also we have to think about how the reunification of families, they're like us and they have families, and I know we love them. So we should take into consideration how immigrants are people like us, and they're just coming to live a better life.
However, people are coming into our country illegally, and I believe that that is wrong and that most people should everyone should try and come in legally, but we should make it a little bit easier because that is why people are trying to enter illegally. They believe it is too hard, but I think a wall can help and make our country more secure.
Right, thank you.
Question about young people that are brought here illegally. Question then becomes, what happens to them? Should they be allowed to stay? Should they be deported? DACA tried to answer that. What do you think about that program? Is this a program that should be fixed? Should we get rid of it altogether? Does it work? What are your views on the young people that are brought here illegally?
So with the current issue of immigration where they're being sent back to their home country, in the case of INS versus Cardozo-Fonseca, it was concluded that it was more likely than not that if an immigrant returned to their home country, they would be subject to persecution. And so if they were to go back to their home country, it's like a catch and release program where if they go back to their country, they're being sent back just because they can't stay in our detention centers in America.
I also believe that we should try to help improve our programs, because if we improve the programs of immigration, then less people will try to come in illegally, and it will cause like a better system, and it will also cause less crime rates and illegal immigrants, like I said.
Immigration is helpful to our economy, but a lot of immigrants are coming in illegally, and that is not helpful to our economy. So we need to fix some things in our policies to make it a lot easier for immigrants to come. And so just to make America a better place and a more approachable place for immigrants.
I was wondering, so we've talked about federal policies and programs in place regarding immigration. I was wondering if you think state governments should be allowed to regulate immigration. Should they have a say?
I do believe that they should have a say, but I believe that the national government should have their rules should be overpowering the state governments, because a lot of states like Texas and California have lots of immigrants coming in through there. So they should be able to kind of regulate what's coming in, but at the same time, the national government should be in control.
Amendment 14, Section 1 states that no state should make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of any citizen of the United States. So while people may think that immigrants are dangerous or that they will bring harm, the states have the right, and we should hold the government and the Constitution accountable to protecting us against them if they are in fact dangerous. So the states should be held accountable, but it should be more of like a group effort to make sure that the immigrants are being let in a good way and that they're not letting in dangerous immigrants.
I also agree because I feel like the state should have a say, but also we need to keep in track how many people are coming over, because if the centers get too full, we're also putting in danger of health because of COVID, like I said in my speech. So I feel like the state should say and kind of regulate what's going on in the centers, but in the end, it should be up to the national government, because that's why we made the Constitution, because the Articles of Confederation weren't strong enough to create a strong national government.
So I have a question about government's role. Does government, what if any role does government have to helping immigrants find employment and housing?
Well, the Department of Homeland Security and I mean, just the executive office have a lot of say in how the immigrants are coming in. Like Biden has put out some of his executive acts, like not letting in more borders, but like immigrants, but making it more habitable conditions for the immigrants. And so I think those two areas in the government, the Department of Homeland Security, they have a lot of say in how immigrants are coming over and what kind of things should be placed so that the immigrants can be let in an efficient way.
Along with that, in Plyer versus Doe, we need to make sure that we keep our immigrants legal, but also we need to make sure that we're still helping them and they still deserve education and jobs and good living conditions.
I agree with my colleague. According to the U.S. Bureau's labor statistics, only 17.4 immigrants are part of the job force, but I feel as though they make a big impact. Like, for example, Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, his father was an immigrant, and a lot of the U.S. has an Apple product, as we're on Zoom with one. So I feel as though immigrants are a huge benefit to our economy, so we need to employ more.
Along with that, 43% of the 2017 Fortune 500 companies were made by immigrant founders, which employed around 12 million people worldwide. I believe that this statistics really just shows how helpful immigrants can be to our economy given the right resources.
Well, do I have time, Kelly, for one question? No, I'm concerned about what your position would be regarding allowing people from countries where the United States doesn't exactly see eye to eye with. Would you be okay with having immigrants from our enemies be able to come in?
Well, I feel as though if the country they're in does not have a stable government, we should be okay with letting them in, because the USA is considered the melting pot of the world. So we should be able to let in anyone unless they have a harmful mindset to the US. But if they're in a dangerous situation or a situation where they're being discriminated against in their country, then we should allow them in.
To go along with my colleague, as long as they're coming with a good moral and they want to come and help America and are coming for safety and a better life, then they should be allowed in. But if they're coming to do bad things in America, I do not believe that we should allow them.
Great. Well, thank you very much. Judges will now give you some comments and I'll lead off. First, thank you. I learned a lot. I think you laid out some general themes, but you also backed them up, not just with facts and law, but you did have some reference to the constitutional underpinnings there. And I think that was helpful too. So thank you for that. I think you obviously work well together. You're well prepared. But the proof in the pudding is how you interact with the questions and with each other. And I think you were very persuasive and I think you did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think you ladies did a phenomenal job applying constitutional standards, discussing current affairs, and showing us two sides to an issue. I don't have your names individually on the Zoom window, but I saw some back and forth between group members, and that diversity is always great to see. So thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I also thought you did a very, very good job. I was impressed that each of you responded to the follow-up questions. So each of you was very well prepared. I also would echo my fellow judges in acknowledging the constitutional foundation that you were able to use for supporting your arguments, as you know, citing the Supreme Court cases. That's grounded in and precedent and anything based in the Constitution. I think was very, very good. So congratulations.
Well done.
Thank you.